Greetings, AAAM members. The AAAM team is excited about coming to Charleston, South Carolina for our annual conference, AAAM 2025, July 23rd through 25th. In harmony with our promise to present members with unparalleled networking and learning opportunities, I am happy to introduce you to a member of our family and annual conference sponsor, Artwork Archive, committed to capturing and ensuring creative legacies using an online art inventory management system to enrich societal narratives with stories from diverse perspectives. In commemoration of Black History Month, and under the direction of Elysian McNiff Kogelmeyer, the Artwork Archive team is eager to present Tell Your Story, How Digitization Protects Cultural Heritage. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tell Your Story, How Digitization Protects Cultural Heritage, a presentation by Artwork Archive, and me, Elysian McNiff Kogelmeyer. I'm with the Artwork Archive team, and I've had the pleasure of partnering with the Association of African American Museums and Galleries for over 5 years now, producing webinars and presentations like this, hosted on the AAAM YouTube channel. You can tune in to past recordings on other topics, but today I'll be focusing on the manageable ways that you can help tell your story, or rather, the stories of your arts institution. If you're an artist yourself, you can also walk away with some learnings for preserving your own artistic legacy. At Artwork Archive, we've been working with artists, collectors, and collecting institutions from all over the world to help them capture and share their creative legacies. The team at Artwork Archive, along with the leadership at AAAM, including Dr. Coleman Robinson, are very passionate about helping you preserve the cultural heritage of Black communities. We want to enrich the broader societal narrative with stories and diverse perspectives. This presentation will outline some of the steps you can take to digitize your cultural heritage so that it can be easily shareable and discoverable, broadening your outreach from beyond your organization's walls. A bit about Artwork Archive, who we are hosting this webinar. As I mentioned, we work with artists, collectors, and organizations. We're an online art inventory management system. A tool that can be used for preserving cultural heritage and digitize it within the digitization process. And I'll be using Artwork Archive as an example throughout this presentation, but if you have another database that you're using, great. These best practices will translate across. So, some benefits of digitization. I may be preaching to the choir and you may already know this, but just wanted to cover in case you have to make the case to leadership on why you're embarking on this project. So, digitization is essential for the preservation, accessibility, and study of cultural heritage, ensuring that future generations can continue to learn from and appreciate these invaluable resources. Digitization plays a crucial role in preserving cultural heritage by converting our physical artifacts into digital formats, ensuring their longevity and accessibility. This process safeguards our fragile and valuable originals from handling and environmental threats. And then it also makes it accessible for, say, researchers or community members to learn from your collection without having to step foot into your organization if that is a hurdle. We also like to, excuse me, we also like to say here at Artwork Archive that archiving is an act. If you're an artist, you have control of the legacy you leave behind. And if you are archiving a collection for an institution, you're ensuring that the stories will not be forgotten in manila folders stuffed in a storage file cabinet in the corner of the organization in a closet. By digitizing objects in their ephemera, you are giving them a life that will live on for generations to come. And here's a great benefit of digitizing. You'll have documentation centralized in one place, which makes applying for funding and grants much easier. You'll be able to quickly compile information for funding and make it accessible online. So you may also have interested funders finding you and your mission by bringing your organization and collection online. Now, I wanted to provide an example, a visual example. Here at Artwork Archive, we are lucky to work with the Buffalo Soldiers National Museum. They have a wonderful founding story in which it was founded, the museum began in 2000 when its founder, Captain Paul Matthews, and his wife, Barbara, had a long conversation about what they would do with the many books and artifacts that they had collected over the years. And as their website says, after many years of collecting and storing military memorabilia in the garage, when the objects started infiltrating their dining room, they started discussing a museum. And so this may be something that you are experiencing right now, or this may be the founding story of your museum or your institution. And so for the Buffalo Soldiers National Museum, after 24 years later, their exhibitions span centuries of military conflicts ranging from the Revolutionary War to present day. Their website shares that they highlight the stories and contributions of African American men and women and the great sacrifices that they have made in the defense of our nation and its citizens. And they bring their collections and exhibitions online, as you can see here, to generate awareness and invite support because, in the words of their CEO, Desmond Bertrand Pitts, your support ensures that the legacy of the African American military experience will not be ignored, overlooked, or forgotten. And so this visual that you are seeing is an example of them creating a public profile, a public viewing portal to their museum and to their collection. They store everything within Artwork Archive, and then they can quickly bring the objects, the makers, the artists information, and their exhibitions online. And again, preserving the legacies of elders and artists in the African American community is so important because their lived experiences and creative expressions hold invaluable knowledge and cultural significance that otherwise would be lost. And so as time passes, the risk of losing these voices grow. And so documenting oral histories, archiving the creative works, and supporting intergenerational dialogue are crucial to safeguarding this legacy. And so these efforts honor those who paved the way while equipping future generations with the tools and stories they need to sustain their identity and inspire progress. And for the artists here on the presentation, if we don't capture these moments while you're alive, then who will speak for you? Who will know your inspirations, your creative process? Your family and friends only know so much. And so the importance of documenting, digitizing, and sharing out with the world this information. And so speaking of the artist narrative and the artist perspective, I wanted to show an example. Oh, I got ahead of myself. I led a webinar a few years ago about preserving Black artist legacies with an incredible panel of Manuelita Brown, an artist based in San Diego, California, Charlie Palmer, another incredible artist, and Miss Keisha Dumas Heath, the executive director of the Museum of African American Art. The link to the webinar recording is shown here. If you would like to watch it, it is on our Artwork Archive webinars page. So with that, I'll jump over to another slide that shows that nonprofits are not the only ones digitizing and telling their stories. We have here at Artwork Archive artists around the world like Charlie Palmer that are bringing their works online with our web publishing tools. So here is a particular collection from Charlie's portfolio about Black awareness. The artwork identity shown here in the box with the yellow background is not from the collection, but is another work in his portfolio to demonstrate his amazing portfolio and a glimpse into his creative process and his intent comes from his artist statement, an excerpt that says, "Everything I create is about the celebration of Blackness, and so I look at it from different perspectives." So here he documents his process, his journey, he's documenting it, and he is sharing it out with the public. So I wanted to show some examples of the ways that you can share out your collection, your legacy, and have that be front of mind before we get into some best practices on how to do it. If you haven't used an art database yet, I will walk you through some of the information that is helpful to record and to digitize for telling the story of your organization, of your artistic legacy, and some things to consider to keep record of so that you can share it out. And here is a screenshot from the Haitian Heritage Museum, the first in Miami, Florida, to exhibit and collect Haitian heritage. And the title of the work says it all with legacy. Going to now click in to an artwork. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to use Artwork Archive as an example. If you're using another collection management system, great. These best practices will be of help. We are going to look at an artwork record first. I'm pulling up this demonstration piece that we have to call out a few things that are helpful to document when it comes to the telling of your story. And before I do that, I wanted to share, big picture when thinking about digitizing, that when you start, whether it be scanning, photographing artworks, manuscripts, letters, books, memorabilia to create your digital archive, some helpful tips that we have seen to help you with this labor of love. To help with the lift, perhaps you can reach out to a local school to employ student interns. A professor may also be interested. And don't discount your community members. You may have some people interested in the history of your archive and of your institution. You can also partner with other institutions dedicated to African American history, like libraries, a local community center, to ensure preservation and public access. So now I will jump into a few things that you can record to help tell your object's story. So here we have our object, the painting. And as you can see, there are multiple images. Wonderful for seeing how it is installed, some detail shots. You can take a photograph of the signature, anything that is attached to the back of the frame or the canvas. If you have artwork installed in the public realm, you can capture the public engaging with it. Again, it's more than just the object, but how it's being engaged with and how the communities are participating with it. Another thing to call out is that our documentation of artworks continues to be enhanced with what we can do. So beyond just a still shot, we have videos and audio files. A video can be a time lapse of the artist making the work, a video from an art opening, a walkthrough of the gallery, an interview with a curator or a historian, and then oral histories are a wonderful way to capture the lived experiences of creatives and community members. So You can record an interview with an artist and upload the audio file. And you can also attach a written transcript if you have it as well. So images, videos, audio, all part of the storytelling. And then a friendly thing to remember when it comes to medium and the type of art and the subject matter, that is all helping telling the story and sharing the process behind the artwork. And so making sure we're capturing that, especially if the materials are not typical oils or acrylic paints, and they're using other interesting materials that are part of their process. You can also create collections within your collection. And so a collection can help you pull information for inquiries or to display publicly, like all of your books or your portraits or artwork from a particular time period, decade, or artwork of a particular style, like abstract or representational. You also have an area for the description of the artwork. So that is your didactic text that you would most commonly find on a gallery label. And I mentioned images, and one thing I want to note is that with an art database, like Artwork Archive, you'll also have access to your high-res images, which is very helpful if you have a researcher contacting you about a piece and they want to include it in a publication or a book. You can send off that high-res image. Or if you are sharing on social media, you'll have the images ready to help you engage with wider audiences. So the media piece, images and video links and audio, as well as the descriptions, make sense when it comes to the stories that are being told. But the other thing to remember is acquisition and donation details also help tell the story. It's part of the story of how it came to be. Was it donated by an esteemed community member? Did you purchase it from a gallery that's been a long-term partner? So how the piece came into your collection is part of the narrative, along with the provenance of the piece. So provenance refers to the history or record of ownership and custody of an object. It traces the journey of the item from its creation to the present day, documenting who owned it, where it was located, and how it changed hands over time. And provenance is crucial because it provides evidence of authenticity, value, and legitimacy. So it establishes the originality of the work by verifying its creator and creation date. It increases the monetary and historical value of an object by linking it to reputable owners or significant historical contexts. Um, Within ethics and ownership, it also ensures that the object wasn't stolen, looted, or illegally acquired, which unfortunately happens and has happened in our history. And so it addresses the issues of cultural heritage and restitution. And then also, again, historical context. It places the work, it seats it into the cultural, social, political significance of the piece and the owners of the time. And so without this documentation, without this proper documentation, the important items risk, being misattributed, undervalued, or unfortunately lost. A few more things to point out on this record. Additional files. So you probably have some paperwork associated with the object, deed of gift, a bill of sale, a condition report. This is also a place to record, the place that this object holds in society. So, a magazine clipping that mentions the artwork in an exhibition or a newspaper article that reflects on the moment in time in which the work was created. And so again, the object is not only is not the only part of the narrative. The artist is a key part of the story. The context is a key part of the story. How this object was engaged with, a key part of the story. And so speaking of artists, if I click into an artist record, again, so important to not only document the artworks, but also the people behind the piece. So this could be the artist or the donor. So a few things to call out here when it comes to documenting, that you can document the demographics of the artist, the contact information if they're still alive and partnering with you. But also you can create contact groups similar to collections for artwork. So now you can have contact groups for all of your local artists in your city, all of your female artists, all of your emerging artists, all of your painters versus sculptors. There is no limit. And then also, if you have a donor, you can keep track of the types of donors, what they have donated, because again, their donations, their interests, their engagement is part of the narrative of your organization. So back to the artist record here, you can also include their bio, the artworks of theirs that are in your collection, any additional files that may be an artist statement. Do they teach workshops? You can include the curriculum and the flyers. If you have a residency program, you can upload their projects. If you have an intergenerational mentorship program, you can pair elders and artists with young people in the community and make note of who they were collaborating with. So exhibitions, if you are curating exhibitions within your organization, or if you are interested in doing so, a few things to note here is that one wonderful thing about digitizing your exhibitions is now you have an archive. So if someone is interested in an artist that exhibited 5 years ago, you can easily pull up that show. You can also use exhibitions to project manage your upcoming shows, and these can be made public as well. These can become online shows so that you're bringing the exhibition outside of your gallery walls. And one thing that I have seen, which is really lovely, is that you can give access to this database to students, to other colleagues, to curators, so that they have this information at their fingertips and they can look through your collections and research objects and artists, and then they can create their own exhibitions, which is much easier than pulling together a physical show. So this can be done in concert with your physical shows, or in lieu of if you have limited capacity. And then I wanted to show an example. All of this can be stored as a private database for you to keep track of your collection. But I've been mentioning a lot about reaching beyond your walls, your organization's walls. And you can do that if everything is digitized by publishing it to the web and sharing it quite quickly, generating awareness, discoverability. And here I'm clicking through one of my favorite clients. I'm actually on the art selection committee for them, Children's Hospital, Colorado. And they publish their physical exhibitions online. This one was for Black History Month. You can see the didactic text. Also, that they have translated everything into Spanish as well, because we have a large Spanish-speaking population. And you can view the artworks. You can learn more about the artist. And you can see here's a price. So they also sell artworks from their exhibition and the artist keeps part of the commission and donates some back to the organization. And one fun fact is that if you are either using this public profile or embedding it onto your website, embedding the artworks or collections or artist pages, is that you can track clicks on your site, like footsteps in a gallery. So online traffic can also be helpful for grant funding. So you can speak to how many people access the online exhibition or your collection online. You can speak to the demographics. You can see where they're from, all using Google Analytics. So those are some examples of things to consider when digitizing your collection using an art database. I also decided to spend the second half of this presentation talking a bit about the digitization project, especially because it can be a bit overwhelming. So big picture, you may have boxes of objects, photographs, a stack of paintings, or you may have it on your walls and items in storage, and you are interested and excited to digitize these objects, these artworks, not only so that you can have a repository, a centralized database to access and manage, and to assist with researchers and interest across the board, but also so that you can share out your collection and make it, again, like I said, more discoverable. People can find you beyond your geographic borders by searching for artists or themes within your collection that they are interested in. And so for many, you may be curious, like, how do I set about this digitization project, especially if I'm a team of one or I have a small staff, limited resources. So feel free to take a screenshot or contact me. I'll give my contact information at the end for these slides. But first things first, to assess what you have and to create a plan. And so a great example is the Haitian Heritage Museum. When they started out, they decided to digitize first to get into their artwork archive account, their paintings. They had an exhibition at the Miami Art Fair. And so they wanted to get that exhibition online first because it was about to happen and they wanted to promote it. So they did that first, and then they moved on to the books. And then I believe another round will be dedicated to additional ephemera. And then when thinking about this, thinking about, who's going to help out. I mentioned earlier, it doesn't just have to rest on you. You can ask for volunteers from schools, your community members, and get some helping hands. Then the question of having the equipment to do this. Good news, you can actually take photographs with your phone. Your phones take pretty quality images, and you can easily upload these images right from your phone or your tablet into an artwork archive account because it is cloud-based. So you can get those images in there. But if you do have a DSLR handy, utilizing one of those, if you have a tripod to keep the camera still, and then also if you would like to invest in a flatbed scanner, ideally for your smaller items like photographs, prints, and documents. And then there's more high res scanners for detailed works. And high res being at least for the scanner, it will be at least 600 DPI. But for what we say generally is that a high-res image that you're uploading into Artwork Archive can be 300 DPI, and images, when they're hosted online, are reduced anyways, down to about 75 DPI, so that someone can't reproduce from the image taken on the website. So a lot of DPI speak. We have articles on the topic if you're curious about high resolution images and sharing images online. And then you also want to just make sure that your documents are prepared for getting them photographed, scanned, so cleaning them, making sure they're flat, there's no curled edges, and that you want to handle them with care. So wearing clean gloves for fragile or valuable items to prevent oil transfer or damage. And then a few notes on optimal lighting for photography. You want to make sure it's consistent and even. You want to ensure that you're eliminating glare. And so there's some tools that you can use. You can think about the angle of your lighting, as it says here in this slide. But also we have an article about how to photograph your artworks, and we have another one for photographing three-dimensional pieces if you are curious. You don't need a master's in photography in order to do it. And here again, high quality, high resolution for quality images. Said it earlier. I'll say it again with a little bit more clarity, to use at least 300 DPI for standard preservation images. And then you can go higher at about 600 DPI for detailed items that have intricate drawings or fine text in documents. And then you may also want to calibrate your scanner for color correction, especially because lighting does throw off some colored light. So you may want to calibrate your images a bit too. And then once you have these images and these files, ensuring that you are saving them for posterity. And so a typical preservation format is saving it as a TIFF, a more accessible format that you can share. It's compressed, is a JPEG or a PDF, and you can make those accessible online easily. And making sure you are saving the metadata. Again, we have an article on this on Artwork Archive, just the information around the image, and then the metadata about the object, the image object. Post-processing, if you have Photoshop, great. There's also free tools like GIMP, G-I-M-P, to adjust the brightness, the contrast, and the color balance. So you don't need like a color card. And then also if you have oversized items that you scanned into individual parts, then you can create a composite using a tool like Adobe's Photo Merge. And so if you want to also send this off to a student intern as a project to tweak these images, great. And then also you'll just want to make sure that these are organized when they are uploaded into an archive. And so making sure that you're using consistent and descriptive file names. You can also back up these files, using Artwork Archive as a cloud-based platform. You have them in the cloud, but you may also want to save these to an external hard drive as well. And again, using a cataloging system, all of these images are going into and scans are going into an online collection management system, so you can easily tag, categorize, and search the files. So that's about the digitization of like taking these physical objects, the ephemera, and getting them into a database. When it comes to then creating the database records, the object records, we get a lot of questions about what is worth saving, and there is no one size fits all. There may be additional details that you want to preserve around, say, posters around a commemoration, and so you want to share more information about a poster because it commemorates the 100th anniversary than perhaps another organization that has a bunch of posters and they don't intend to keep information about them. They're more interested in their original artwork. But some general best practices that we have seen, and I have an article, again, I have another article on cataloging your fine art, ensuring that you have those identification details, title, the artist name, creation date. And the good news is if you have a piece that has been in your collection, you have no idea where it came from, its title or who made it, you can just title it untitled and have that an image of it in the untitled, and perhaps it's a research project, a scavenger hunt for someone later down the road to dive into. And then again, talking about the importance of provenance and the ownership history, detailing any acquisition details that you have, an understanding of, who owned it and when, how it has changed hands over time. Those descriptive details, any keywords or tags that you want to assign to it, like abstract, landscape, environmental, so that if you are planning an exhibition in the future or you have a scholar interested in all of the environmentally focused works within your collection, or from a certain time period in the 1960s, you can quickly pull them together for them. And that documentation that I mentioned a lot earlier. So images, certificates of authenticity, appraisals, any insurance information, really just kind of reiterating what I had been saying earlier. And then don't forget that historical and contextual information of how this artwork, lives in our society, its relationship to other artworks, other artists making their work, other societal, cultural events of significance. Legal and copyright information, important because if you want to reproduce this artwork or understanding how it can be displayed in exhibitions, did your donor or the artist have any wishes? The location and storage of the artwork is so important when we think about preserving it, to understand the storage conditions, if it's out on loan. Sometimes things go out on loan and we forget about them if we don't document them, and years later, works can go missing. And again, those bibliography and references, so published references, artist statements, and external links to online exhibitions or information about the artwork or the artist. We live in our www world, and lots is on the internet, and so keeping a track of those records as well is very important. So that was a lot. Luckily, this is recorded if you want to rewind and go back to a particular part of the presentation. But I wanted to provide some examples of some great digitization projects that are going on. Hopefully, we'll have a presentation in the future with the Museum of African American Art about their digitization process and where they are in that process, as well as walking through, how to use a database like Artwork Archive or another to ensure that you are cataloging and preserving your objects, your artists, narratives, and your cultural heritage. And then, yeah, some of those best practices and strategies for your digitization project and thinking about what you are going to save. And if you have any questions about this content, you can contact me. I didn't put my email on the slide, but I'll say it's Elysian, ELYSIAN, at artworkarchive.com. Maybe AAAM can put it in the webinar description in YouTube. And then also we have a landing page for you. So www.artworkarchive.com/AAAM, or you can learn more about our tools. And if you're interested in using an art database, an art collection management system like Artwork Archive, we do offer a lifetime 30% discount to AAA members to help make it more accessible and useful for you all. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Best of luck telling your story and digitizing your artworks and ephemera to preserve your community and your cultural heritage. And I can't wait to see it online and to see your impact. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day and year.